Welcome to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. Grab your favorite mug, sit back, and enjoy. Now here's your host, Caryn Fitzgerald.
Good morning and welcome to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. I am your host, Caryn Fitzgerald, and today I am speaking with Robert Kennedy III. He is a speaker, trainer, personal performance and leadership coach, but he refers to himself as a people builder. And we're going to talk more about that in just a moment. Robert is currently working on his third book, Purpose, Power, and Profit: How to Create Impact with Your Gifts. He's in Baltimore, Maryland, and has a lovely wife and 3 amazing kids. And Robert, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am fabulous. I am so glad that you are here with us this morning. And I want to jump right into this. What is a people builder? That's how you refer to yourself. Tell us what that means.
Well, you know what? When people ask me what I do, I say I'm a people builder. I say that I inspire people to be better and I help leaders build better people. Because, you know, in the work environment, one of the things that happens in a lot of work environments is that people go in and they do quote unquote what they're supposed to do. They sit at their desk, they sit at their cubicles, and they do what they're supposed to do. But in a lot of cases, there is not a thought given to their purpose, their things, their gifts that allows them to really buy into the vision or the final product. So I like to really seek or help leaders especially find out what are the building blocks, what are the tools that each person comes to the table with, and how they can really use those things, or how they can help people see where they fit or where they can contribute in a bigger way, and thereby not only building them up from a self-esteem or self-image point of view, but help them to see how they can be a building block in the bigger picture or in the final product or whatever the end goal is.
Well, it sounds like you have an absolute love for people.
I do. I'm around them all the time. I got 3 kids and a wife. So yeah, I I gotta love people.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background, because this isn't something that you've always done in this arena. Tell us a little bit more about you and how you got to this point.
Well, you know what? It's been a journey. I started out of college. I was in the human services field for about 5 or 6 years. I started out as a human services counselor, and then I moved up to supervisor and then director for a department where we supported people in the community who had mental illnesses and different challenges, and we supported them through that in a variety of ways. After that, I moved into teaching. I taught 7th grade for 1 year, and that was, let's just call that a growth experience, a character building time for me. And so I did that for, less than 1 year, and my daughter is getting to that point. She'll be in 7th grade very soon, and based on what I experienced that year, I'm a little bit terrified of what's going on.
I can tell you, we've made it to the 8th grade. My daughter is now in 8th grade, and I don't envy you, because I would not want to repeat that 7th grade year with her for anything. So I will say an extra prayer for you.
I appreciate it. I need it. Yes. So I spent that 1 year in seventh grade. I moved into high school after that. And I lasted, well, I shouldn't say lasted. I got the opportunity to be in high school for 7 years after that. So 8 years in the middle school and high school classroom total. And then I taught online college for 2 years.
So you've always been a teacher.
Yeah. I mean, even when I didn't admit it, I suppose I was. My parents, funny thing, they told me once I became a teacher that they always knew, or they saw for a very long time, that I had great skills at teaching. I did a presentation my senior year of college, and I don't remember what the topic was, but I remember that I had a partner, and I got this bright idea to have sock puppets for my senior presentation, right? And so my parents saw me preparing this thing and going over this presentation at home and putting it together. And apparently they went to their room and they told each other, hey, he would make a really great teacher. But they didn't say anything to me. And so when I finally became a teacher, I said, well, why didn't you say it to me? Why didn't you tell me that? And they said, you know what? we're your parents, and we knew that if we told you, you would have just done something else anyway. So we said, let's just see how this thing plays out. And, sure enough, you came back to teaching at some point.
So did people for, the holidays and birthdays and stuff, did they give you different socks so that you can make more creative puppets?
Well, you know what? I wish I knew where the video was. I had a video of that presentation. I haven't gotten socks in a long time. You get the typical dad stuff, ties and those types of things. I actually need more socks, so I should probably put that on my list.
Well, you sound very creative, and your profiles have labeled you, if you will, as a personal performance and leadership coach, and that you work in that arena. Tell me what your fascination is with these areas.
Well, you know what? I love, number one, the process of, and I suppose this comes from the classroom. When I was teaching, I had these moments where you're looking at a kid or you're looking at someone, and there's a new concept. And you may say something about it, or they may look at it, or they may look in a book, or you may be introducing it. They have this puzzled look on their face, and then you help them get from one point to the next, and they may not jump up and down, but you see the moment happen where the light bulb goes on, that aha moment, and you see it take place. And that moment was a moment that I lived for. I loved it. And so once I moved out of, I was in human services, I was in corporate to some degree, then I went into teaching. Then after that, I started my own company. So in my own company, I was a trainer and an instructional designer, developed online training. And so I continued to seek that moment where people move from something that they don't understand within themselves, or they see something that they see that was impossible at one point to them, and then you get them to a point where they go, oh my gosh, I can do this. And so showing up as your best self, setting great goals, figuring out how you can be your best and perform in peak condition every day is something that I love to not only inspire and empower people towards, but help them figure out what are the tools and strategies that they need to show up as their best every day. And so that's the personal piece. The leadership piece is, my dad's a minister and my mom was a teacher as well. And so I suppose I've always been in positions or opportunities for leadership. And so combining the two of those has been it's been spinning around in my head for a long time. So.
And you are obviously passionate about it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're first joining us, we are talking with Robert Kennedy III, and don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Coffee and Coaching with Caryn after these messages.
Stay tuned. Coffee and Coaching with Caryn will be back after these messages.
Need a little more happiness in your life? Here you go. The Happiness Recipe Podcast to the rescue. Listen each week as June Klein and Sandy Weaver Carmen share wit, wisdom, and wonderful food with their guests. Guaranteed to add happiness to your life. happinessrecipe.net.
Yo, attention authors, share your work on Coffee and Book Chat. Book reviews, author interviews, blog posts all about you and your book. Visit coffeeandcoachingradio.com for details today.
Are you looking for quality entertainment and activities for the entire family? Then come on down to the Plaza Theater Company and Plaza Academy Dance Studio, located in Cleburne, Texas. The Plaza Theater Company is an award-winning community theater that presents 10 productions a year, performing every single weekend. If you have a child that enjoys acting, dancing, or singing, then you can enroll them in the Plaza Academy Dance Studio. For more information, visit plaza-theater.com or call 817-202-0600.
Welcome to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. Grab your favorite mug, sit back, and enjoy. Now here's your host, Caryn Fitzgerald.
We are back with Coffee and Coaching with Caryn, and my guest today is Robert Kennedy. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, jump right in. Robert Kennedy III is a speaker, trainer, and personal performance and leadership coach, and he has been sharing some very powerful lessons with us this morning. Robert, I want to jump back to this. You talked about personal performance and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for you to share just a little bit about how you feel personal responsibility and creativity play into our lives.
Well, you know what? life is funny. We are taught something about personal responsibility when we're young. We're told, you know, how to walk. We're told how to fend for ourselves, and then somewhere along the way, we've been fed something that causes us to start blaming people. We've been fed something that causes us to get into this mindset of the world is created for me and I don't really have any say in how my life goes. And so when tragedy happens, or when things happen, or when things don't work out the way we want them to, the first instinct is to reach out and look around at everybody else: TV, media, teachers, bosses, friends, wife, husband, daughter, son, whoever. We're looking for somebody to blame. And the reality is, yes, life throws us some stuff sometimes that we don't have any control over, but I always have control over how I respond. I always have control over my attitude. I always have control over the words that I say and the things that I bring to the day. So, even if I fall, if I skin my knee, yes, it's going to hurt. Yes, I'm going to see blood. Yes, I'm going to see some things that are not particularly enjoyable, but I can either choose to focus on the blood. I can choose to blame the rock that I tripped over, or I can say, wow, this hurts. This stinks. This is not where I want to be right this moment. I've got to deal with it right this moment, but I can choose to move forward. I can choose to determine what the next thing is, or whether I will dwell on the thing that hurts. So personal responsibility is huge, and if we will only take that, and I think I mentioned to you before this interview, my book, 28 Days to a New Me. In the second section, week 2, we've got this acronym called CPR: commitment, persistence, and responsibility, as in personal responsibility. And the more that you take responsibility for what happens in your day, or what you can contribute today, or how you can create your day, the more powerful you're going to be, the more you're going to feel like, my gosh, I can make my day happen, and anything that I want to accomplish or achieve, I can make steps towards it. I can determine the steps, and I can choose the steps, and I can create the steps. And so that's the big thing. I think I forgot the second half of your question.
Oh, that's okay. I would actually. Well, we're gonna talk a minute about the 28 Days to a New Me, and
Yeah.
So I want to know where that idea came from, and I mean, because it's a powerful book. That's a really powerful book. So tell us, 28 Days to a New Me. Tell us about that.
Well, you know what? I was working with my business coach a few years ago, and one of the things we were trying to do was really latch on to the thing that was going to cause my business to grow. What was my big why? What was the thing that I was able to contribute to the world? And I, of course, I've always been a teacher. I've always been a trainer, and I was helping to build online training, but I wasn't so much enjoying the administrative side of the business, and really trying to figure out how I could grow things and help others to figure out how they could reach their path as well. And so in order to motivate myself, one of the things that I started to do was to post different quotes on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, Facebook mostly. And I started posting just, empowering things. I started to look at Jim Rohn and started to listen to, Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and a lot of the, Jack Canfield and a lot of the motivational, inspirational gurus. And I was reading a book at the time called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Now, you've probably heard the phrase or the mantra that, it takes about 21 days or 28 days to form a habit, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So, yeah. So I posted that on Facebook one day. I said, it takes about 28 days to change something in your life. What is it that you want to change so badly that you're willing to do it for 28 days? And I got a gazillion responses. Well, maybe, not a gazillion, but 100 and something. But it was more than I'd ever gotten. Okay. And it was by far. And so I made a commitment to that group of people, say, listen, if you guys are interested, or if you're really committed to doing something in your life, then let's start next week, and let's start doing whatever it is that you want to change for 28 days. And a lot of people said, yeah, let's do it. We had a group of 40 people that said, hey, I want to write a book. Hey, I need to exercise. Hey, I need to change my marriage. Hey, I need to get better at budgeting. And I commit to doing this for 28 days. And so I started doing these little videos and just kind of created this process and wrote a book out of it. That was in 2012, 2014. We're still running the groups 2 years later. Plus, we're heading into the third year now. But the idea again is, listen, if you want to change something in your life, there are a few things that you need. Number one, you've got to have commitment. You've got to decide that you're going to be personally responsible. And one of the big things is having a community for accountability that helps you. And, not trying to change everything in your life at once, just one thing. What's the one thing that you want to change? What one area do you want to transform in your life? And if you can just do it for 28 days without fail or without a break, you are going to change your life forever.
Whoa. We are hearing some powerful stuff from you, Mr. Robert Kennedy III, and I don't want anyone to go anywhere because we'll be right back. And when we come back, I want to know what happens on day 29. So we'll be right back with more Coffee and Coaching with Caryn after these messages.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Coffee and Coaching with Caryn will be back after these messages.
Need a little more happiness in your life? Here you go. The Happiness Recipe Podcast to the rescue. Listen each week as June Klein and Sandy Weaver Carmen share wit, wisdom, and wonderful food with their guests. Guaranteed to add happiness to your life. happinessrecipe.net.
Yo, attention authors, share your work on Coffee and Book Chat. Book reviews, author interviews, blog posts all about you and your book. Visit coffeeandcoachingradio.com for details today.
Are you looking for quality entertainment and activities for the entire family? Then come on down to the Plaza Theater Company and Plaza Academy Dance Studio, located in Cleburne, Texas. The Plaza Theater Company is an award-winning community theater that presents 10 productions a year, performing every single weekend. If you have a child that enjoys acting, dancing, or singing, then you can enroll them in the Plaza Academy Dance Studio. For more information, visit plaza-theater.com or call 817-202-0600.
Welcome to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. Grab your favorite mug, sit back, and enjoy. Now here's your host, Caryn Fitzgerald.
We are back with Coffee and Coaching with Caryn, and my guest today is Robert Kennedy III. And before the break, we heard about 28 days to creating new habits and the programs that you guys are running. What happens on day 29, though?
Well, you know what? What happens is it's what you want to happen. We've got some people that have been in the group since it began, and they just continued to do it. They continue to either deal with some of the same challenges that they just wanted to be accountable to, or they did other new things, and they started to just really develop a system, a process for creating transformation in their life. So, day 29 is not a magic pill. Really, the idea is, and what the purpose is behind the book as well, is to say, look, if you can create focus, if you can create momentum, and that's what it really is, momentum, little repeatable actions that you can do daily are going to, you may not see the big change, or you may not feel on day 7 like this is getting any easier, or it may not feel automatic. And when we say the word habit, a lot of people think it's kind of like nail biting, something that you do unconsciously. But this may not be what we're talking about. We're simply talking about getting your mind, your body into this routine. And, this is a bad analogy here, but it's almost like a drug after a while, right? So you're doing this thing, and on day 29, if you don't do it, you miss it. Your body misses it. Mentally, your mind says, hey, what happened? We were doing this thing. We were on a roll, dude, for 4 weeks. What happened? And so what happens is, if you decide that you're not going to do it on day 29. It's not just an automatic, drop off the wagon. It's a conscious effort by you to say, look, I'm not going to do this thing. And you've got to consciously make that effort over and over again to get it out of your system. So if you want to make that transformation, day 29 is simply the continuation. Day 29, we say 28 days to a new me, and technically we say, hey, day 29, new me, yay, right? But that new me has started to develop, and it continues to develop. And what has changed now is your mental process to say, hey, if I want to make a change, or if I want to make a transformation in my life, these are the steps that I need to take. And this is how I create momentum. This is how I create impact, by using repeatable steps daily for 28 days or whatever the amount of time it takes me to get it going.
Okay, so tell us, what has been one of your personal successes in changing your habits? What has been a big one for you?
Well, the first one was writing the book. I never considered myself a writer, right? Although I did honors English in college. Whoa, long time. But I didn't consider myself a writer. I had never written. I hated writing papers. Hated it. And to this day, I don't necessarily consider myself a writer, but I was listening to Jeff Goins. I interviewed him. If you've seen his website, it's goinswriter.com. He's a great writer. And one of the things, a story that he told, he said he went to somebody and said, hey, you know what? I want to become a writer. How do I do that? And the person said, well, you're right. So by that definition, I guess I'm a writer, but I had not written anything except being forced through school to write papers or anything of that nature. So much so that I was in the training community, e-learning, developing online learning, and I was referred to a publishing company in England to write a book, and I didn't want to write it. And so I initially hired a ghostwriter to help me write it. Right?
That's an interesting step.
Yeah, well, I got to talk. We woke up in the morning and I talked to him at 5 or 6 o'clock, and he would write. And, I did some of the writing, but he did a good, the actual pen to paper for a lot of it. So when I got to this point with 28 days, this was the first time that I sat down on my own willingly to say, look, I need to put some of this to paper because I don't want anybody else's translation on it. I need to have the perspective. I need to put it down. So I wrote. I got the book and I started doing blogging after that. I'm in the process. I got 2 more ideas. Where I'm struggling right now is I have so many ideas that I want to put down on paper. But I've been writing articles, and so writing was the first thing that really came out of that.
Wow. And you know what? Once you get that bug, the ideas just start flowing, and it's, sleep is so highly overrated. There's just no time to sleep because all the ideas, and I'm looking forward to some of the things that you've got coming down the pike with all the different writings, because this sounds super exciting. So my last question for you, as a personal performance and leadership coach.
Yes.
One of the biggest challenges people have is making sure that the person they're working with is going through or walking the walk, not just talking the talk. What does a typical business day look like for you as a personal performance and leadership coach?
I don't know if I have a typical day. That's kind of a setup question.
Well, okay, I'll rephrase the question. Are there certain things that you do for yourself on a daily basis that are non-negotiables that you absolutely do for yourself?
Absolutely. There are days that I get up. I've made a habit of getting up earlier and earlier. I used to wake up probably around 6 o'clock, but I've been slowly pushing that back to about 4:30. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, when I get up at that time of the morning, my kids aren't up.
I know that story.
Yes. And so I get a lot of time. I get some time to not only think for myself and really just organize myself, but I get some time to write. I get some time to really focus and figure out how I want to contribute to the world, how I want to show up that day. If I wake up, what happens is sometimes people wake up and if they didn't have a good sleep or they didn't have a good night the night before that, they wake up and boom, they run right into their day and they don't have a chance to process. They don't have a chance to set their thermometer or their mindset for the day, and they run in to that day and they have the worst attitude. And have you ever, that you show up to work and you see those people and they've just got a bitter face first thing in the morning, and then they're all coffeeed up and they're just not happy people.
I see
right?
those people. I usually turn and run the other way.
Yes. So so in the 28 days group, one of the people, every morning as I post things, a few ladies have asked, they said, "My gosh, are you this pumped up every day? Are you just, rah every day?" And I said, you know what? I don't wake up that way. I do have a good mood because I one of the non-negotiables is that I go to bed. I spend at least 15 to 30 minutes reading something inspirational, something that's going to feed me the night before, so that when I close my eyes, when my body shuts down, what's in my mind, what's in my subconscious is something that can lift me up. So I'm not watching the news. I'm not watching crime shows. I'm not watching murder shows. I'm not watching things that are going to sit on my subconscious for the night, because I can't do anything about it at that point. Right? So I'm feeding my mind, and then I wake up in the morning and I continue that process and ramp up and get my day going. So by the time I meet my first person for the day, by the time I make that first phone call, once the kids are gone to school, by the time I have that first interaction, it's guaranteed to be a powerful interaction, right? Because I'm building up to that and I'm feeding that. So that's my non-negotiable. Those are a few of them.
Absolutely. And it's all intention. That's exactly what it sounds like, is just creating intentionally. And Robert, it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you and learning from you. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to share?
Wow. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'd just like to share with everybody. I'd love to have you visit me on my website, robertkennedy3.com. We've got quite a few things coming up. As you mentioned earlier, we've got the next book coming out in probably the end of first quarter next year, and we've got a few other things. We've got some masterminds and things that we're doing right now to help people set their goals. There's one that I'm doing right now called the Personal Power Plan Mastermind that we're meeting for the next 4 weeks to help people step into day one of 2015 with ridiculous power and a setup for success. So those are some things, robertkennedy3.com, and I'd love to hear from people. Reach out.
Wonderful. Absolutely. We will post your website as well, along with the interview. Thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn, and my guest today has been Robert Kennedy III. So if you missed any of this, go back and listen in. robertkennedy3.com is his website, and we will have that posted. Thank you again, Robert, for joining us, and we will be back tomorrow.
You've been listening to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tune in next time for more Coffee and Coaching with Caryn.
Until then, visit us at coffeeandcoachingradio.com.
Caryn Fitzgerald is an author, speaker, business strategist, and leadership coach. Connect with her at coffeeandcoachingradio.com.